What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Weekly Cheddar. Jake Shavink here with you guys. It's been a little while. We've obviously had some shows in the mix between Weekly Cheddars, but these will be back. Pretty hectic couple of weeks, but we should be good now and locked in for the rest of the football season. So hope you guys are excited tonight. Big matchup this week for Green Bay. Jordan Love looks like he's going to play, which is great. It gives them the best chance to win. He makes the high level plays that a lot of others cannot. So that's really exciting. But going to be missing a couple key pieces in the secondary. That's not helpful. It looks like there's going to be a new center this week as well. So that's maybe equally as not good. But we're going to talk a lot about the game today. Obviously, Q&A, that's part of this as always. So beginning to every one of your comments as well. Got a few things we'll go over. But yeah, I mean, really the skinny on this is, two teams who are playing great football right now, meeting on a Sunday afternoon at Lambeau in what's supposed to be kind of a rainy, pretty mild game for November. But two teams who are playing really good ball, right? Detroit has had an offensive explosion the last, 5 weeks is it now, I believe? 4 weeks? Yeah, and, they've been a team that's been able to get it done defensively as well in key spots. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson going down is not going to help them with a lot of their other heavyweight fights going forward. But they're still going to be a pretty well-run team defensively, too. They've got two safeties who are, let's face it, tremendous football players, tremendous at creating turnovers, great instinctually. And they've got a really good tandem on the interior with Lee McNeil heading up that group. So the good news, though, Green Bay is even with Ja and Evan Williams missing some time, sounds like obviously no Jamison Williams. So that kind of maybe changes a little bit in terms of what you have to plan for. But yeah, there's a lot to cover in this one. I'm gonna quickly go over here really fast, just a little something for you guys. I'm gonna do that part later, actually, when there's more of you guys in here. But obviously, offensively, statistics wise, EPA per play, what have we seen so far in 2024? Look at total EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball. Detroit 4th overall in EPA per play, Green Bay 11th on offense. When you look at drop back EPA, Green Bay 5th and Detroit 7th. And then you look at rush EPA, right? Detroit 1st, which is not surprising at all. Green Bay more middle of the road at 14. In terms of success rate, right? Detroit 6th. Green Bay in 20th at success rate on offense. Not the best. I think that's kind of telling you that the Green Bay offense has gotten to be a little bit feast or famine in terms of a play-to-play basis, whereas Detroit has been more consistent in that regard, right? Drop-back success rate, you can see, Detroit and Green Bay more middle of the road because, again, they feed off of those explosive plays. But when you look at rush success rate, it shouldn't be a shock that Detroit is this high and Green Bay is way down the list at 23rd. Now, defensively, right, in terms of these statistics, right, EPA per play allowed, Detroit number 5, Green Bay number 8. When you look at drop back EPA, Detroit 4th, Green Bay 7th. So, again, really good secondary play that has kind of defined both of these teams this season. And then you look at rush EPA allowed, and Detroit and Green Bay, surprisingly, right in the mix. When you look at the success rates, you can tell that Detroit has been better overall in kind of every phase, but two really good defenses as well. When you look at team DVOA, the same kind of thing, right? Detroit number 1 currently, Green Bay number 8, Green Bay 5 on offense, Detroit 4, Detroit 3 on defense, and Green Bay at 12. So again, we talk about it's a heavyweight matchup, and that is something that we knew coming in. We figured it was going to be this way even before the season. So this was kind of really the first matchup, maybe other than Houston, where you kind of go, okay, this is it. At least, before the season started. Obviously, Minnesota became one because they started out really well. But yeah, I'm excited for this one. I hope you guys all are as well. I know Packers Kingdom was in here pretty early, dropping some stuff saying that Green Bay can beat Detroit, right? Goff, you can pressure him, you sack him, you hit him. He gets into a spot where, he feels uncomfortable and you see the play dip a little bit. Obviously, Goff has been phenomenal the last month. So it's going to have to be, yes, like the Bucks and Cards, and in Packers Kingdom hits it on the head. The Bucks and Cards were probably the two best teams in limiting this offense, and Arizona's was more about, I think, adjustments in the second half. Detroit scored 20 points in the first half and then didn't score in the second. When it came to the Buccaneers, it was more about the success that Tampa Bay had defending Detroit in the red zone, forcing a lot of field goals early. So they both kind of did it in a similar way, but had more effectiveness, either with adjustments or just better defense in the red zone. So there you go. Stop the run, the trick plays, trick special teams. Yeah, special teams, Detroit has a clear advantage as well. I think, in terms of what they do in return team, right? They had I don't even know how many return yards they had last week. Right, so many against Tennessee. So that's going to be a big factor as well. But, man, I think we're going to talk a little bit about the Bucks and Cards and what they did and what Green Bay is going to have to do defensively. So Prince Capsaicin in here says, rain, don't go away. 50 degrees and wet will hopefully slow down the Dome team. Yeah, this is Jared Goff's first game outdoors this year. He's only the Lions are only going to have 3 games outdoors all season, which is crazy. One of them, I believe, is in San Francisco. So is that really too much of a crazy weather outdoor game? Not really. So Lambeau and Soldier Field are really going to be the only 2 times where Detroit could really see like any bit of inclement weather that could affect this offense. So it's a nice draw for them for sure. But yeah. So. Chris N says, let's go. AFAM says something, and if he doesn't know, Google it. Do I trust AFAM on this? Probably not. Probably not. Really quick, I want to bring this up for people in here just quickly because I think it's something that everybody should be interested in and look at when you're talking about this game with Detroit. Look at this video. Thinking Football does exceptional stuff with film rooms. Even did something on Brian Flores and the defense that they're running, which is super, super good if you want to check that out. But obviously take a look at Detroit's offense because it is insane how detailed it is. It is insane how much that they can do. With that offense, right, when you look at it talks a lot about, numbers, it talks about angles, and obviously talks about players. And, to kind of, I'll try to summarize a couple things on it. But when you look at what Detroit does really well, obviously running the football, teams can load the box to stop the run. But what Detroit does really well is they bring everybody into that box, essentially, right? The condensed formation, they bring everybody in and say, okay, everybody's going to be a part of this, setting up blocks, giving us good angles in the run game, and they do that. And the Detroit line obviously is really good, at basically pushing teams way off the ball, resetting the line of scrimmage, giving Montgomery cutback lanes, and let him use his special contact balance skill set. And then they have, obviously the pin pull, the gap stuff where they let Jahmyr Gibbs, just explode really through any gap that they can create for him. And just, in between the tackles, the sweeps, all of that they have in their arsenal in the run game. And when you can do a lot of that under center, right, we talk about how under center and play action is really key because they have that success. Teams have to be ready for running the football. Detroit definitely is that kind of team that's a little bit more like part, yes, we run to set up our play action, but also we just have really good play action. We're really good under center anyway, right? Those condensed formations can still be used in play action. And then it eliminates, okay, we can't go into man, right, with the condensed sets because they'll, start running mesh and then they'll destroy you that way. So you have to be in zone, but they have good zone beaters on the quick hitters, right? So they have a lot of that baked in, and that's what's really difficult about this team to defend, not to mention the trick plays, the hook and ladder they ran against Arizona, right? The trying to get Penei Sewell the ball on a lateral, right? There's really no stone that they won't try to turn over when it comes to playing offense. So that is, it's going to be difficult. And so to kind of talk about that a little bit and bring this into it, let's talk about this really quick. Because I think it's something that, I think offensively we can kind of work through together what the keys are offensively. I think defensively is more what we want to talk about, because I think, no defense should be scaring Green Bay's offense, right? That was Jared Goff's undercover name. Okay, that's interesting. Hopefully we don't get backwards Jared Goff in this one. AFM also saying he's waiting for a Dontavian Wicks double pass. Yeah, you never know. You want to out trick the trickster. Maybe this is the day. Maybe this is the game for that. Who knows? But when you look at the defense and you look at the keys, what do they need? Well, when you look at both Tampa Bay and Arizona, two teams that we already talked about at the top of the show that did a nice job defending Detroit, right? Allowing 16 points, allowing 20 points. Those are the only two games that Detroit has had 20 points and under on the season. So what did they do well? Well, obviously, there is part of it on the Lions side of things where it was like, they just don't quite have the rhythm put together completely on offense. They're still working through a few things, and timing and rhythm and all those reps came together. And that's clearly, working now in this middle third of the season. But I think obviously the top point here is evergreen, right? We talk about that early down run success because of how good Detroit is running the football. I mean, honestly, if you can do it a few times, right, you just aren't going to be able to do it all the time. There are plenty of times where Detroit is going to be able to get 6, 7, 8 yards on first down because they're just better than you up front, right? It's just facts. And with this Packers defensive line and linebacking core, they're not the unit that I would describe as the best unit to stop this run. Now, Green Bay's done a pretty good job, right, when we talk about EPA per play and success rates, on defense against the run. This is a different team running the football. It truly is a different team. So if they can find a way to win on a couple reps, a run blitz here or there that's successful, right? You have your nickel or your strong safety dropping into the box to get a good angle to stop the run, right? There are just a couple times where you can get Detroit behind the sticks will be big, right? Even if this is a shootout, right? You just need those one or two stops, the one or two turnovers that we that always gets mentioned in those types of games. And this is how they're going to be able to do it. I think what Tampa Bay did really well is Tampa Bay muddied up those short windows. And what I mean by that is, right, they had their corners in a good spot to disrupt early in the route, right? They were playing tighter press coverage, even if it was zone, right? They were finding ways to contact receivers early, throw off that rhythm. But there were plenty of times, especially there was a red zone play that Tampa Bay had against Detroit they had a corner kind of lined up on the number 2 receiver. And when Jamison came in motion, basically they had a high-low look on Jamison running to the flat, and that just completely erased the window for Goff. And that's where Goff wanted to go with the football. So it's a lot of good game planning and instincts and execution on the defensive side of the ball that really did wonders for Tampa Bay. And especially when we talk about, disrupting receivers on those routes early, that was key. There were plenty of times where Jamison Williams is getting disrupted in his stem and he's not where he needs to be on time. Goff is looking for that throw. It's not there. He has to go to the check down, right? Or, he's kind of throwing it away, throwing it at the feet. So you have to be able to be in the right spots in these kind of short, zone coverages, these hook curls, right? Especially buzzing to the flat. A lot of that is going to have to be muddied quickly against this team. Also, right, the potential turnovers are there, and that's something where that's what Tampa Bay did on Goff's interception in that game. Disrupt the route, and then the safety or the DB's in a really good position to make the play. And Tampa Bay's had good, secondary play this year. Maybe not from who you expected, right? Zion McCollum at corner and Tyke Smith, the rookie. coming in and doing a really good job for them. So that helps. Players help. Scheme helps as well. So it was kind of a nice combination for them. Two things Arizona did, and we'll get actually, let's go to the second point really quick. Good communication and instincts and coverage, right? In the middle of the field, outside the numbers, especially on high-low concepts. And what I mean by that is you watch how Detroit worked against these two teams, that even when they weren't scoring, the success between the 40s, right, in the middle of the field was a lot of, can we get these linebackers, especially? I think that linebackers are going to be key. DB is obviously going to be key in this game, but when the linebackers bit on some of those, those hooks, in front of them, or these little short in routes in front of them, they were almost always getting Amon-Ra St. Brown behind that, to kind of create those high lows. And when you have that basic route in route further down the field than another one, it's going to force the linebackers to choose, right? And a lot of times, the undisciplined ones that aren't worried about, the seams or the deeper hooks in their zone are going to bite early, and that's going to open up that middle of the field, which is exactly what Detroit wants to do, whether it's in just true drop back or play action. So you have to be disciplined. Down the field first, rally and tackle the football. Tampa Bay was, had their hair on fire on every play, rallying to the ball. But with these communication things, it's key about, okay, if you go watch the Tampa Bay game at all, with Detroit, there was so many times where linebackers are passing things off perfectly, and the corners are passing off this, here they're getting to the flat where they need to be, but they're also in zone, getting their eyes on Goff, going, okay, he's trying to hit this corner route behind this, in that smash concept. I'm going to be back there because I know that Jamison Williams or whoever it is going to cross the face of the safety. I need to be back there, right? And the same thing goes for the high-low stuff. I need to be back there, and then I need to rally for the football when Goff is working to the check down. Because you didn't really see in either of these games with Tampa Bay, Arizona, a lot of pressure, right? Or a lot of hits on Goff. So a lot of it was, good coverage, good communication on the back seven, and forcing Goff to get to checkdowns where they can rally to the football. And so a lot of that is going to be key. You have to tackle, you have to rally the football. All 11 need to be playing with intensity, which it seems like a very basic thing, and it kind of is, but we've seen Packer defense for a long time not be that, right? And so it's good, though, that Jeff Hafley has this unit in a good spot. Now, the last thing is pick your spots for blitzing. And this was very evident in the Arizona game. There were a couple really nice instances of Arizona sending blitzes, on a strong side or running an important twist or stunt that really messed with the offensive line, which is, again, when especially when you have five on the defensive line, when the protection is basically the man in front of you, running those stunts, it's very difficult. But Arizona did a really nice job timing up the blitz. And how they did that is they have Zaven Collins, who's a really athletic outside linebacker / edge rusher, and they were able to drop him into zone as they're bringing a blitz from a strong side. He drops, into zone coverage where he's muddying those windows. And that's something that obviously, Brian Flores has done a really nice job of. They put 6-7 on the line or whatever it may be, and they drop somebody. And they mess with protection. And maybe that's something Hafley needs to do more of, right? You kind of saw him get really pretty creative, at least, in the Houston game, messing with C.J. Stroud, and they did a really nice job in that regard. Arizona got a couple of them where it was, Goff kind of had to almost fake throw it away, right, high of a guy because someone's in the window, and they actually got a pick off of one of those where linebacker had to, from one side of the play, basically drop across the field to kind of run with the crossers to stay muddying that window, and he got into it. Goff wasn't expecting him there, and it's an interception. So a lot of the blitz spots are going to have to be, I think, replacing in coverage in the right spot, or whoever's behind needing to understand where the alerts and where the checks are going to come, from Goff when the blitz is coming. So it's just going to have to be a well-communicated, well-executed game plan on defense to beat this team, and that's going to be the case all year. Right? We'll probably be talking about it when they play him next in December. So that's a lot of what you're going to have to do defensively to stop this team. Right? That you're never going to fully be able to stop them running the football. It's just very difficult to do, right? They just don't have the elite personnel to handle it. So it's just going to be a lot of, just excellence in coverage, which is what this unit has been, which is really good news. And again, the occasional hit, and if you're looking for a spot or a few players to watch in this one, here's what I would say. Edgerrin Cooper and Eric Wilson need to be in the right spots in coverage. Those two have to communicate, be in the right spot, rally to the football, limit yards after the catch. That they have to do all of those things, right? They need to get their eyes on Goff and be instinctual. The other thing is, if you're going to get anyone on the edge to beat either of the tackles, you're going to have to beat Taylor Decker. Sewell's been too good. Decker's the one guy you might be able to beat. And this would be a great time, as we kind of bring this up, for the defensive line to figure it out, right? We've been talking about what's the issue, what's this. I'm still working through that. That's something I'm going to kind of drop during the bye week because it's still a lot to go through. So I hope you guys, tune in for that. But I think the spots that are going to be key, right? Wyatt and Brooks, right? Those are going to be key. Those two, of course, because the guards are the weakness on the unit. And if either of them can generate enough pressure or, shoot a gap on a fourth down or a third and short, those two are going to be the ones that can affect Goff the most. Carl Brooks is starting to ramp up a little bit more after a kind of a quiet first few weeks. And then Devontae Wyatt's been on a tear this year. Those two, plus either Gary or somebody on at the edge, needs to be able to just win once, right? Or win on the stunt, affect the stunt, make sure you wrap up, right? Contain on a potential scramble, which I think Green Bay did a really nice job against Richardson, against Hurts, right? They've been doing a nice job against QBs who are scramblers, runners, so that they need to be in that frame of mind with the discipline as well in this game. So again, I think, without Ja, without Evan Williams, it's going to be a lot tougher. There's no doubt. But I do think the front seven, stepping up, making a few plays here and there, Brooks, Wyatt, Cooper, Wilson, going to go a long way. Going to go a long, long way. So, and I think offensively, truthfully, I think it's a lot of the same things, right? It's making sure that the run game is diverse. I think you need to run at the edges, right? If you try to run into the teeth of the defense, I just don't see a lot of success there, right? Like that's going to be something that, they're going to try it, right? They're not just going to exclusively run one certain thing, right? LaFleur's done a really nice job with the run game, mixing it up, right? GH counter, they still run some zone stuff, but they've done a really nice job mixing it up. Need to run at the edge. You need to run at the edge, and I think you're going to be able to cook in that regard. I really do. And in coverage, I think you just need to be aware of where Joseph and Branch are at all times. I don't think their corners are the best. Terrion Arnold has struggled in terms of holding, in terms of being really grabby on pretty much every rep you can find of him. And Carlton Davis is physical. So you need to have receivers who are going to combat that physicality. Dobbs and Wicks probably being those guys. But I think this is going to be a game, as we mentioned, where Reed and Kraft are going to have to be crucial in the middle of the field, because I love their athleticism in the middle of the field relative to what Detroit has. I know Campbell was a tremendous athlete in the testing. He's a downhill player. So I do think attacking their linebackers is going to be key. Helping, having receivers, win one-on-one outside, because that's really where the strength of this Green Bay unit relative to Detroit's is. You're going to need to see Wicks and Dobbs win a lot out there and give Jordan those easy ones in the passing game. So, offensively, it's a little more simplistic, because defensively, it's just there's a lot to think about in this game. So, AFAM says he's going to be having tricks on Sunday morning. Sounds good. Adam Huddle, what's going on, says need Wicks to put Arnold in a blender. I think he can, right? And the rain, right? It's going to be a little slick. Make sure we got our footing. Make sure we secure the football, specifically towards Wicks, right? That's going to be key. But, I think Green Bay is going to get up for this game, though. So, yeah, that's really all I had for the most part in terms of the preview. We'll kind of, the Q&A, we'll kind of talk whatever real quick as we're making that transition. Just kind of, seeing if the commenters are gonna, you know, ask anything or drop their thoughts, your thoughts on the game. Really quick, want to put this out there for you guys. I'm going to have a couple links down in the description of this one where Substack and Patreon are going to be there. There's going to be a lot more on those things coming soon, potentially even some audio as well. So for kind of the draft nerds and the receiver stuff and the Packer stuff, all of that, if you're into any of those, I think, kind of make your way to those spots because there's going to be a lot more stuff. I'm going to tease this for next week. I'm going to have, I would say, a pretty detailed look at the Packers receivers through the first half of the season. So there's going to be a lot of that stuff during the bye week. Rookie looks, second-year guys, taking a peek at how their development's going. I already mentioned the kind of Packers defensive line and what that's going to look like. And hopefully, as we're working through this, looking at some trade targets for Green Bay before Tuesday's deadline and kind of putting that into a video as well. So if, you're watching this afterwards or if you're watching it now and you want to check afterwards, both of those links will be there. I know there's not a lot at either of them at the moment, but I will say there's a lot that will be dropping there very shortly. So just a little quick plug there. Chris N says, are you disappointed Quay is going back into the starting lineup? And Chris says, I am. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I know it's been, kind of, seems anyway, the guy to throw under the bus the most. And it does seem like Quay's play has kind of flipped on its head from last year. Last year was kind of like, oh, look at this. He's kind of doing really, really good stuff in coverage. And this year it's been more of like, nah, the coverage hasn't quite been there. He's been a little bit more effective defending the run. And obviously, his blitzing and his speed and all that, Hafley has taken advantage of that. So I don't mind that he's back in the lineup. I know that's maybe not a popular opinion, but I think that he still provides some value, and Green Bay still needs something from that position defending the run. Listen, Wilson's made some awesome splash plays, and Edgerrin Cooper continues to get better. I would love Edgerrin Cooper to be the Mike on this defense. I would love for him to use his length and arrive at contact better to shed blocks and pick his spots well against the run. He just hasn't done it yet. And I don't think you should, force him into that spot too quickly. And Eric Wilson, I still think, struggles a little bit with some of the run defense stuff as well. But they've given him good chances where they've kind of either seen things or alerted him to it where he has gotten to a good spot to attack at the right time, and he's made plays. On a snap-to-snap basis, in terms of defending the run, I haven't loved it. And Quay has been okay in this regard. So I'm not that disappointed. I want to see a lot of at least three of the guys playing, maybe all four, right, including McDuffie, but I'm not that disappointed. I just would love to see better play from everybody up front. So Fred McFarley, what's going on, says, is Bullard who you thought he was when we drafted him? I know they have put quite a bit on his plate. Yeah, I think the one thing with Bullard right now is receivers are getting to him in coverage simply because they're threatening his leverage. And he has fallen victim to the bait on that pretty consistently. And so I think he's done his best at nickel when he's running the alley, playing pursuit on the backside, tackling. He struggled a little bit more in the man coverage aspect of things, or even in the match, zone. It's really more of the slot receivers taking advantage, I think, more than anything. And I still think I would like him to be a deep safety when he plays, but there's still value with him as a nickel, though. It just seems like he's kind of lacking a little bit of the patience and not playing as physical as I would like him to, against receivers in coverage, where he's kind of just staying in off coverage. He's not, initiating any contact in the stem or kind of doing anything at the top of routes at this point. That's really the biggest concern for me with Bullard at nickel right now. And it's tough. It's not an easy position to to be inserted into as a rookie because, even in nickel, you have to be cognizant of your run fits on every play, especially when teams are under center. So there's a lot of that. And I think he's still, getting up to speed in terms of how he needs to handle things in coverage. So I still think he's got otherworldly talent and can be, a deep safety and potentially a nickel, but I just think it's going to take maybe more time than I initially thought. And that's okay. Everybody develops at a different rate. I don't think it'd be any better if Williams was playing nickel and Bullard was playing deep safety. I still think there's a little bit of a coverage liability there in terms of how they play receivers. So yeah, I think it's tough. It's just a tough position to play. I'm still very hopeful. But I agree, Fred. I do think they have put a lot on this plate of you can play deep safety, you can play nickel. Here's all the principles for this and this and this. It's a lot. It makes your head spin. That's why Edgerrin Cooper hasn't, they haven't asked Edgerrin Cooper to do all that, right? They've kind of made his role a little more defined in what they want him to do, blitz, cover, right? He's been really effective there, and they're not overwhelming him with snaps. So, yeah, I think a lot has been put on Bullard's plate, and I think that's a really good point. Prince Capsaicin says, with Williams out, do you think Oladapo can figure into the game plan? He might be an asset against the run more than Zane. Yeah, I think he'll be a better asset against the run, right? But I do think, based on who Detroit has in the middle of the field and as a slot receiver who gets a lot of those matchups that are pretty enticing, they're gonna have to. They're going to have Nixon out there. Going to have some size and speed to handle Amon-Ra St. Brown. I kind of like that Bullard's getting, presumably the start at the other safety spot with McKinney, because I think he's going to be more valuable there. I think he can see more and attack more from a lot of those spots, and I think he'll be the kind of the guy with communication, eyes in zone coverage, and the instincts. I think that'll all hit a little bit better for him against Detroit playing safety than it will be playing slot. So, yeah, I maybe Oladapo gets in this game, but it seems like Green Bay's really comfortable with their linebackers, and they're comfortable with the two guys they like at slot. So I don't know how much we're going to see Oladapo, truthfully. We might not at all, but I think, it could be really fun. It's just they're going to have to pick their spots with how they utilize Oladapo. So I do agree, though, him over Zane Anderson makes a lot of sense. He's just got the size, the reliability as a tackler that he was in college. It's all there to be a better player against the run. It's just him in the nickel spot in this game is just that's a tall order. That is a tall order against St. Brown and Laporta, who roam that middle of the field. So, but yeah, I think there's. Yeah, it stinks, unfortunately, that Hafley's going to have to go in undermanned against this Detroit offense. But man, it should give you a good indication of guys not named Ja and Evan Williams and X who's really going to step up and help this team down the stretch. It gives you a good idea of what the depth looks like a little bit more. And maybe something where Goody's been, looking at the trade deadline saying, yeah, this is what we need, right? Because we don't have this. So I think it'll be valuable, right? Getting a game for Hafley under his belt against Detroit can only be beneficial for the matchup in Detroit down the road. So Antonio, what's going on? Asks, do you think Hafley trusts putting Oladapo in the game, or will they choose to go with another corner or linebacker? So I imagine I don't know how much we're going to see Green Bay in base. I think it's possible that the speed of the game is a little bit overwhelming for Oladapo at this point, where all the assignments and just, seeing everything play out, it's just been a little bit too fast for him to this point, and maybe Hafley just doesn't trust him to this point. Again, I don't like doing this because it's not always the case, but Oladapo was their third pick at safety, right? And when they pick two guys higher, more often than not, those are the guys they're going to get in and see the reps. They're going to have a little bit longer leash than the guy who was picked third of the three. So, and ideally, right, the guys that you draft earlier are more ready to play right now, and that has been the case. So it just it might be a game speed thing. It might be trying to figure out where he fits best type of thing, should he get onto the field. So I'm sure that there's a lot going on. And I know we all loved Oladapo. Just seems like, it must not be ready yet. And same thing that we kind of talked about with Fred's question with Bullard. It's like guys are going to come along, develop at different rates. And that's okay. And I do think the expectations, once, Oladapo wasn't an early day 3 pick, expectations probably should have come down a little bit more with him, in all honesty. So I think they're going to go a different direction. I feel like they're going to have Nixon out there as right the slot corner when they're in nickel, because they trust the size and the speed coming downhill, right? So, I think that's where we're going to be, right? It's going to be X and Bullard. It's going to be a lot of Nixon, a lot of Stokes, Valentine, all of that. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to see him very much, if at all, which is unfortunate. But that's the reality, right? A lot, we in a few years we can still really love this rookie class that Goody put together. And it just might not include Oladapo. Oladapo could maybe not be on the team in a couple of years, right? Like, that's the reality at this point. Like, it's very clear that Bullard, Williams, and Cooper have all provided value already. And for that, to find 3 players like that, potentially plus others, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good draft. If these 3 all pan out, like, no matter what happens in the first round, unfortunately, potentially again, it's going to look pretty good. So, Fred McFarley asks, is our left tackle in 2026, wow, 2 years from now, on the roster now, or is Morgan a guard and has Walker peaked at replacement level? Yeah, this is a good question. Is the left tackle in 2026? I don't know. I think Walker has leveled off. I know it was a little bit of a struggle bus for him to start the season. The penalties and all that wasn't good. But I do think, like, when you look at, he's kind of leveled off. He's done a really good job. Yeah, I don't know. Jordan Morgan's a tough one to figure out because, I think, the Jordan Morgan thing is really interesting because I think a lot of people, including myself, graded him as a guard, and it was like, okay, yeah, like that's a guard, and he can be really good at being the guard. But obviously the athleticism and the experience was there at left tackle, and it was just more about a hand placement thing. But if I think the big thing with this is if Sean Ryan is good enough and is taking the right steps to be the right guard and is kind of staving off Morgan in that competition, there's a chance, again, hypotheticals here, there is a chance they go right back and go, okay, yeah, Jordan Morgan's left tackle. We figured out the right guard situation. It solved itself with a little bit of competition. And Jordan Morgan goes back over there and says, all right, now challenge Rasheed Walker for left tackle, which I think he can do. Is the 2026 left tackle on the roster, though? Put it this way. I don't think Green Bay's 2026 left tackle is going to be drafted in April. I don't think. Just because, again, maybe he finds another gem in the 4th round. There are some, FCS guys who are intriguing. But other than like Josh Simmons and maybe Will Campbell, but Will Campbell, short arms just probably isn't, by thresholds, at least really a Packer. It just, Wyatt Millum is the other one probably from West Virginia with Simmons from Ohio State. And Simmons coming off an injury now. He's out for the year for Ohio State. So who knows if he even, comes out. He could, in theory, go back. Because that COVID eligibility has yet to run out, right? That runs out in 2 years. Yeah, I think I think there's a chance both Morgan and Walker are still in the roster come 2026, and maybe Morgan is the one who takes over. I don't. I'm going to say, I know you want a yes or no, Fred, so I've got to think about this one. I think just because of what Green Bay values at that position, I'm going to say yes, because even I think, let's just last hypothetical on this one. Even if Green Bay drafts who they believe to be their left tackle in 2026, from everything we've seen, it's usually like, okay, we're going to give him some time before he gets on the field. Right? We were clamoring for those of us who loved Zach Tom were clamoring for him to get on the field early. Right? It took injuries and kind of trying to, slot him in somewhere. He played some guard. It took some time for him to get to where he is to be that, the cornerstone at right tackle. So I don't, even if they draft the guy in 26, I don't think he's going to be the starter. So I do think the starting left tackle for 2026 is already on the roster. Yeah, I think but that's a really good question. And Fred also says, I don't want to have to spend another one on a left tackle if we don't have to. Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think if you need to, that's a great place. Round one is usually a great place to find one. Now, of course, Fred, there's the other option of, I know he's already set in there, and I really don't like moving guys around who are elite at what they're doing. But there is always that option of Zach Tom, who has the experience of left tackle, just kind of going, yeah, can you go over there? Can you go that side? Yeah, perfect. Okay. Like, we'll give you more money or something, right? That could be part of it too. So, but I do think I'm going to lean yes on that question. Holmes MD1 says Oladapo missed a bunch of time. He did, and that definitely hinders it a little bit. And Holmes, MD1, he is a very good player. He was a very good player in college. But I do think you have to kind of recalibrate the expectations based on what has occurred to this point. Right? Because think about this, okay? Everybody, including myself, okay, let's just start here. Everybody, including myself, probably, there may be some who didn't, but most people that I talked to or interacted with had Oladapo ranked higher than Evan Williams pre-draft, period. They did, right? Like, they did that. And so, but at now, right, when you get more information, right, and I know he missed time, and it stinks, and it's tough when you miss time. But at some point, you kind of have to be like, okay, yes, Oladapo was a very good player in college. Yes, he's missed some time. But if he doesn't get in this year, it's just hard for me seeing him, becoming a just far and away better player than Evan Williams or Javon Bullard. Right? So I think, there's a little bit of recalibrating the expectations now. Even though a lot of the rankings had him higher, I think it's now kind of like, okay, Oladapo, very good player. Is he going to be a tremendous player in the league? I don't know. But I do think, like, okay, now the expectations should be set to, like, okay, can he become a role player in some facet? Because it's just Evan Williams already looks tremendous. Like, we've seen him play, and we've seen that data. We haven't seen a lot from Oladapo, and that's, and I think, again, that's part of your point, and I'm rambling way too far. But he, again, very good college players. So many have struggled in the league. And Oladapo could be one of those guys where, again, not to really hit the fault of his own necessarily, but like some of what he does is it's hard to find the perfect long-term spot. And it might not be on this team. It could be on a different defense where he's in a perfect position, right? So I do think there has to be a little bit of a recalibration of expectations with Oladapo, to this point at least. Adam Huddle says he put his money on Jordan Morgan to be a left tackle in 26. Adam also brought up Wyatt Millen from West Virginia. Yeah, dude's is nice. He's a nice player. So it could be. I think Green Bay, I think the needs are pretty well defined with Green Bay going into the 2025 draft once we get there and have a lot of those conversations. Defensive line, corner, interior offensive line, right? Maybe running back. We'll see. But again, they're never going to look. They're never going to turn their nose up at value. So if left tackle is value and they go for it, not good. I'm never going to be upset about consistent O-line reinforcement. So Prince Capsaicin says should get a hint on Jair's status tomorrow if they do. Oh yeah, if they do a corner call up, that's true. He doesn't play special teams, so would they go Rochelle again, or does Haddon or King give them better coverage options? Yeah, how many times they haven't elevated Rochelle too many times yet, so I would probably lean Rochelle because they've already done it, right? That would be my guess. But if Kalen King in the slot in this game, though, if they ever asked him to, it almost just makes perfect sense. But I do think they probably, with Williams out, not impossible. But I don't expect it to be King. But it would be interesting if it was. I think Rochelle is probably the way. Prince. So Adam Huddle says, what does average left tackle salary extension look like? Let's go here, shall we? Let's go here. Let's go to Spotrac and kind of just look at the current ones if we want to. Or just look at over the cap. See if I can find it just for left tackles here. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, let's do this. Let's share this back here. Kind of take a peek at the extensions. Yeah, I mean, when you look at the median right now, and obviously Stanley doesn't have much money, and you have a lot of rookies all the way down here, of course, and then kind of aging vets like Tyron Smith, right? That you wouldn't include, so there's a lot of rookie deals on that APY. So, I mean, when you're looking at average, right, in terms of left tackles, right, you're not getting up here. I mean, with Sheed, right, I think we kind of know this. Right, Sheed's not going to get, the Thomas money, the Tunsil, the Darisaw. He's probably not going to get that, right? But I think you could, in theory, for quality left tackle play, be in this sort of 13 to 17 range, right? Like what Cam Robinson's getting, Orlando Brown, right? You look at that. I can't believe Jonah Williams got 15 APY. That's crazy. Arizona trying to do everything to kind of help that offensive line out. So, yeah, I imagine, Adam, we're looking at that 13 to 17 range. And if he's going to be a quality left tackle starter, you're probably going to even potentially push yourself into 17 to 20, which is a lot, right? Which is a lot. And, where would I – so I'm trying to think of also where I would put Zach Tom here. I think I'd pay him more than 20, right? He's better than Decker. He's better than Dawkins. He's probably better than Mailata, but Mailata's really good. And he's at 22. I personally don't think Tom is worth more than Darisaw at this point at 26. 23 and a half. 23 and a half feels like a really good number for Tom. But, yeah, I mean, you're looking at, again, with Rasheed, I'm starting to think like 13 to 17. Sheed's going to try, his agent's probably going to try to push for close to 20, right? That's just how it's going to be. You see these contracts going up. It's a lot. It's a lot to pay your two tackles, especially when you have a potential one right behind Rasheed in Jordan Morgan, who has that experience and you feel good about it. But Taylor Bell says, I want to try Monk, but we need to draft a center. Yeah, they probably do, especially if Myers isn't coming back, right? I don't know if Jordan's going to be in on that. What would a Myers extension look like, right? Should we take a peek there? Okay, no, take left tackle off, though. Okay. Man. Yeah, when you look at the APY here for centers, boy, you're going to give... I mean, Ragnow, 13 seems not that much for Ragnow in terms of APY. I feel like he's even more valuable than that. But man, you're going to give Josh Myers 12, 13 million a year. I do feel like Jacob Monk is going to have a chance at center, right? I do think that's going to be the case. Yeah, it's going to be a lot to give Myers if they go that direction. They probably do need to draft center, unless they feel good about Elton doing it, right? Unless they feel good about him kind of moving there, just like kind of keeping that value in house that you've already paid. But yeah, I do think center is going to be a target for them. There are a few guys. It's not the most. It just isn't the richest offensive line draft. Looking at it right now, which is something we'll cover. Right. So, and because of that, maybe that kind of forces Green Bay's hand to pay Myers because the center class doesn't look great. Who knows if like Parker Brailsford from Alabama could be one of those guys who goes back. He could in theory go back. Like he's a junior. So, you know, it's going to be a tough call because of this, at least the perceived at this point, lack of depth in the 25 draft at center. And like this, I mean, Adam Huddle makes a good point. Green Bay, the locker room, front office, everybody praises Josh Myers. Jordan Love is, again, you know, he signed that big deal. He takes him deep run in the playoffs, right? He starts cruising for MVP down the stretch. I feel like you might have to at least have his ear on that side of the ball a little bit and go like, this is a guy I would like to have back, right? So that in theory they could, but I do think they based on what it looked like for Monk and kind of diving into the film more and really piecing it together, I think center's just going to be his position because I think of the preseason struggles where you looked at him on an island at guard and pass pro and you're like, I don't like that. I don't like that. The center has the most help around him in terms of pass pro, and you've seen the quicks and all he provides in the run game. So I do think Monk is in position to be the starting or backup center for the foreseeable future. But if they bring back Myers, like that's, I mean, it's possible. So who asked this? Where was this? Fred McFarley asks, which non-first round 2022 draft pick would you prioritize for extension this coming off season before they hit free agency? Yeah, I mean, in 2022, it's Zach Tom over everybody, right? At this point, like, very, very easily, Zach Tom. I don't, quite frankly, I don't care how much the money is, right? If he asks for 24, 25, sure, you can have it. You've been phenomenal, right? If you want to look at the right tackles, we can do that. Wirfs has 28. Sewell has 28. Do I think he's worth as much as those two? Probably not, although Wirfs has moved over to left tackle, so I don't know why they haven't updated that. But, I mean, I will say kudos to the Bills for getting a Spencer Brown extension done before he's, like, really, really good right now to where he's probably worth more than 18, but I would give Tom 24, 25 a year for sure. After that, I mean, obviously, Sheed comes into this conversation for sure. Because again, it's left tackle. It's worth a lot. And I know people are going to want me to say Dobbs or Watson. I'm almost positive, right? Jordan Love is going to be like, yes, I need Dobbs back. Like he's my guy, like kind of go to in the Devontae Adams sense of like have the chemistry, right? Body control, makes those tough catches, right? That you see from him. So I do think Dobbs would be on that short list. Walker, Watson, and Wyatt, the W's. Man, I don't know. Watson, I kind of struggle with it to this point. And this was somebody who I thought kind of like coming into the season, I was like, okay, I like Wicks' wide receiver 1. I like Reed as 2. I like Watson probably a slight edge as 3/4 just based on type of player. But I'm thinking you can find speed some places. And Dobbs clearly has that chemistry with Jordan, and it's just hard to see him. It's hard to see Jordan being pleased with the idea of letting Dobbs walk. So I do think that they need to prioritize Tom, Fred, right? Like that's where they're going to look first. After that, it's probably going to be Dobbs or Walker, most likely. And then we'll see what else falls into place. Maybe Wyatt, because Wyatt's having a good year. And maybe he's on that short list, but I do think the top three are on the offensive side of the ball. So that's a good question. I like that one. I think obviously the Tom is the easiest answer there and makes the most sense. But Adam says, next question, if you're going to pay Tom 25, do you want to pay Sheed even close to that? Yeah, that's going to be a lot, right? Like, but again, look at so the Eagles are paying, let's bring up both here, right? Both left tackle and right tackle, right? Eagles are paying 22 a year to Mailata and 20 a year to Lane. And you look at that and you go, wow, that's a lot for two tackles. But it's like, yeah, but they're really good. Like Lane Johnson's probably a Hall of Famer. Mailata's been tremendous. So I don't mind committing that much money if it's worth it. Now, I think it's going to be a very nuanced question about whether Walker's worth a certain amount of money or not. So, yeah, Walker would be a tough sell for me to get to $20 million a year based on what we've seen to this point. At the same time, you'd rather not be like searching at left tackle, right? I think if they let Rasheed walk, they are certain about somebody like Morgan or somebody they drafted, right? Like, so that's the thing. Those are the two positions where it's nice to be able to hit on 4th and 7th round picks like Green Bay has and put them through the right development program and do a really nice job with the coaching and development. But when push comes to shove, I am paying tackles over receivers, linebackers, all of those guys in that draft. Those are the top two for me. But I know Dobbs is going to be a priority for Jordan for sure. So Myers is going to get, Adam says, one of those running back contracts loaded first 2 years. And then fluff, that's possible, right? That is possible that they kind of like, hey, listen, like, you haven't been the best. Negotiations are weird. You haven't been the best, but like, we'll give you 2 years. You've done a really rock solid job the last couple, right? When you're not injured and playing hurt, that will just kind of like, yeah, we'll take it this direction. Works for me. Yeah, maybe it'll be tough because there'll be a lot of teams looking for center that are going to be like, yeah, we'll give you 4 or 5 years, right? And Green Bay's going to be like, okay, well, we have to kind of figure something out here. But yeah. That would be ideal if you kind of it would just be more ideal if it was a 2 year 3 year deal where it's just kind of like leave it all in the books, don't push money, because eventually you're gonna have to push money. Like Tom and all these guys are, the more you think about it, like the Goody, great draft classes, but now the challenge begins, right? When the young talent's not so young no more, and they're looking for stuff. Taylor Bell says, "Wow, there's a lot going on here. Key players signed: right tackle Tom Wyatt, Eric Wilson. Yeah, that's a 2021 player, Eric Wilson. Enigbare wants kicker, wants Whelan back, convert Quay to edge. See, the problem with converting him to edge, he's not that big. And for this defense, having 265, 270 on the edge is huge. That's important to have that size on the edge. This isn't a 3-4 where you can have wide nines, where Quay, in theory, could be like your Will McDonald's, your Nolan Smiths, your Reddicks, right? Your who's the guy the Jets just let go for Reddick? I can't think of his darn name. Oh, the Eagles have him now, and I can't think of it. But anyway, whoever that is, a lot of those guys, because it makes more sense because they're built like outside linebackers. They can rush with speed, and they can do all that stuff. Having Quay play defensive end is just not going to happen. Let Myers play if he balls out, sign him. If not, let him walk. Let walk Slayton, McDuffie, Ballantyne, Stokes, Rochelle, Zane, Dillard. I wouldn't let Telfort walk. Yeah, Orzek, I think everybody's pretty much on that. Cut Preston. It does sound like Green Bay's trying to move Preston, at least from what everybody's saying. So, practice squad, King, Brenton Cox, and Aaron Mosby. Yeah. I don't know. Aaron Mosby seems like somebody's going to pick him up. And that's why Green Bay had to kind of keep him on the roster. But, yeah, Taylor Bell said, I like Slaughter from Florida, the center, or the USC center. Yeah, which is, Monheim, I think, Is the USC center? Hang on. We're just gonna pull up PFF just because might as well. For that, because we've been talking about it. Can I have center blocking grades? Thank you. Gotta have it. Gotta have it tuned to pass blocking because obviously minimum snaps. Yeah, Slaughter's here. I knew he was. I knew he was near the top. I don't see the USC cat. I think that's who it is. There's Brailsford, which these splits look great for Green Bay. You talk about good splits, right? Like pass blocking versus run. That's great, Green Bay. Oh, where's the USC guy? Hold on. I thought that's who that is. Let me see. So many tabs I can close now because we've talked about all this stuff. Pretty sure that's who I'm thinking of, but let me take a peek because I thought that's who it was. Yeah, that's who it is. Yeah. Yeah, this is who they're this is Taylor's talking about. Is Jonah Monheim, who has played. I mean, when you look at all this is wild. Some right tackle in here, some right tackle, right guard, left tackle last year, and some right guard, and then moves to center. So in theory, he has played everywhere but left guard, which is sick. Super sick. But yeah, that's somebody you consider. Although don't love this, like, oh yeah, I'm doing good against, got Rutgers did fine, Maryland did fine. And again, PFF grades aren't everything. I haven't looked in depth because I don't think I have USC offense right now. I don't think I have it yet. I do have it against Michigan, and I've seen that, and I think I have it against LSU. This is not ideal if this was the case. So, it's not great. But as you mentioned, Slaughter has been, I believe, pretty darn consistent. He's a good player. A lot of center experience. Green Bay doesn't traditionally do that much, but I mean, this is pretty good if this is the case. Because I think Myers is like 6'5" and a quarter, 310 or something like that. So, yeah, I like Slaughter for that. I do. But yes, the USC center is very versatile. Monheim has played everywhere except left guard. Prince Capsaicin says any midseason extensions this year look unlikely. Myers will be the only one in the 2021 draft. That seems possible. Yeah, because Stokes, Myers, Amari Rodgers. Yeah, going down the line. Yeah, Myers is the only one. Stokes, I don't see it. Corner class is just too good right now, at least looking at it from a wider scope before super diving in. The top 7 or 8 look pretty good. Obviously, they all won't be good, but, the class looks good, and that's somewhere Green Bay's going to be looking at, and they should be. It's a good mesh of need versus talent and at that position for 2025. So maybe they could try to keep Eric Wilson on a short-term deal. He's 30. Yeah, if they like Wilson, I mean, I would in theory. It just depends on how they feel about Hopper. Right now, his first year of development is gone versus Wilson. If they feel like Hopper's in a good position, that would be maybe the one reason they don't bring Wilson back. But also, I think McDuffie's one, isn't he, as well? Right? Isn't McDuffie one of those impending free agents for 25? It'd be nice to just have freaking the team. Hold on. Because, linebacker's tricky. It's tricky because of Green Bay drafting, but also, I don't know how they feel about Quay. Oh, yeah, McDuffie is class 2021. Okay. Yeah, so that makes it really interesting, right? Where it's going to be both of them. You pay the younger. That's, you pay McDuffie. Do you feel like Tyron Hopper's in a good position to replace McDuffie? If so, do you bring back Wilson? Wilson's probably going to cost more, I would imagine. So, yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, linebacker is going to be very interesting to watch this offseason. There's no doubt about that. Adam Huddle says wide receiver going to be a sneaky need. Ooh, yes, sir. Yeah, I mean that's exciting. So if you feel that way, right? If you're on Adam's page right here and you feel that way, I don't know yet if that was the case, but I have last 2 years done receiver breakdowns in the draft guide for Cheesehead TV. If you want more receiver breakdowns for the draft, you're going to find them here. You're probably going to find these guys, these wide receivers. I'm not going to say it out loud. These ones here. These ones are going to be on Patreon. They're not going to be on here. If you know, you know. Okay. If you know, you know. But those ones are not going to be on here. Those will be on Patreon though. But yes, that'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch because I just don't. As we talked about though, I think they're going to bring Dobbs back. I think Jordan's going to want that. Watson's going to be a more interesting question. So, I think someone will pay Myers like the Giants paid Runyon. You can let him walk for a comp pick. Can't pay everyone. Yeah, you can't. But I do think, again, linebackers are a really weird situation to watch in the offseason. Offensive line's always something to watch because, again, the NFL offensive linemen, it's like, it's tough to find good ones that work with the scheme and can consistently play well. And Myers has been fine. What do you do with fine? Do you move on from fine and hope that who you've drafted and who you could draft ends up being better than fine? Center's a key position. Center's a key position. So, but they could let him walk. I mean, there's plenty of teams who are going to be looking for center. I mean, Fred, you mentioned it, the Giants. I mean, John Michael Schmitz has not been good for them through a couple seasons now. They could easily be looking for center help, and that could be the team. They could be like, let's just sign Green Bay's players that they don't hang on to. So it's going to be a tough one. Should we keep Bo Melton? I mean, the speed is helpful. I think we kind of loved the small sample size last offseason. He hasn't done a whole lot this year. Is he kind of replaceable? I do think you can find more speed guys like that. I mean, I wouldn't mind if they want to keep Bo Melton, right? I don't think it's going to cost a lot to. But it just depends. It's all going to depend on if you're handing me the keys to draft a young wide receiver with some speed, I will do that over paying Bo Melton. The problem is they might not think that way. So I'm fine with having speed like Bo Melton still on the roster if it's at a good price because he has proven it at least a little bit on this team. So let everyone walk except key players for sure. Yeah, so Stokes, Myers, Slayton, McDuffie, Valentine. Yeah, Wilson, Dillon. Yeah. Yeah, the Stokes, Myers, and Slayton's a big one. Yeah. Yeah, McDuffie's class of 2021. So, yeah, draft Jihad Campbell. Sure, could do that. I don't know if they're going to keep drafting the linebackers, though. I mean, I don't think... I think especially if they re-sign one of Wilson or McDuffie, they're going to feel pretty darn comfortable there. I know that Quay is going to be, a free agent. They're probably not going to pick up the fifth year, right? So, which they'll have to do next offseason. So he'll be a free agent after 25. But if they feel like the room is comfortable, we'll see. But Jihad Campbell's a good player. And Lawson, you could, could. You can't trade Watson. Could, yeah. I mean, plenty of teams will be looking for that speed. The Colts were interested in him last year, right? When there was that whole talk about Jonathan Taylor. So, Yeah, Bo on special teams is another big thing, when you're drafting. But I mean, there's a lot of receivers that, as long as they're coming in with the right mindset, you talk about day three drafted receivers, right? A lot of them, if you find the right guy, which Goody on day three has been tremendous to this point, right, in terms of the draft. If you find the right guy who's going to, buy in on special teams as well as make an impact on the field, like, I feel pretty comfortable letting Bo Melton go for that kind of player if they feel comfortable doing that. So, but yes, Bo Melton on teams is valuable enough as well. And again, he has, as I said, he's proven it, right? He has come in and he made some key plays down the stretch last season. So, oh yeah, Fred, that's right. Fred, that's right. They didn't draft. Wow. Speaking of the 2021 NFL draft, right? Yeah, Green Bay did bring in Jamin Davis to the practice squad this week. Former first-round linebacker. I remember a lot about Davis. I wasn't the highest on him. Actually pulled up. Let me see here. I had 2021 rankings, and I had them somewhere, and I can find them. Let me try to find the final board here. I'm looking for it. We're looking. I'm searching for it because I know it was a pretty deep class at linebacker, if I remember. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so what I had here at linebacker, again, this was Parsons at linebacker, not edge, so that's why he's lower than JOK. He's obviously transitioned to edge and been tremendous. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, it was. So I had JOK, Parsons, Collins, Bolton, then Werner, Browning, Jabril Cox, and then Jamin Davis. So I wasn't the biggest on him, but the athleticism was there. It's a very toolsy type of linebacker with all the athletic gifts in the world. It felt very similar to kind of the Quay Walker type, where it was like, okay, he's big, strong, and he's fast, and he's a good athlete. But he's got a little bit ways to go in terms of development, right? So I do think that is something where, it's worth a swing. Goody, teams will chase the pedigree of former first round picks. That's not out of left field or anything. That's not new. So they're going to chase that. I don't mind it. It sounds like they're playing him at linebacker, not edge, which is what Washington tried to do recently, right? They were trying to say, like, just speed rush, do all this stuff, go hunt QBs, and really wasn't working, so they let him go. Worth it on the athleticism? Sure. To stash on the practice squad? Yes. Former first-round pick? Totally fine with that. But I did think the instincts and the processing speed and a lot of that weren't quite at the level of others in this class. So I was not big on him being a first-round pick. Obviously, you can see that by the rankings. But yeah, I think that it's worth the swing, and it's kind of tells you like they're still open to some options at linebacker. I think, at least in the long term, right? They're still invested in that idea of development. So it's most likely it's not going to turn into anything, right? Devontae Campbell version 2 would be insane if that were the case. Devondre at least showed a decent amount, right? At least in Atlanta, little less so Arizona, right? So Campbell did show something on his rookie contract, but Jamin just hasn't to this point. It's very much the lottery ticket thing where, I kind of talked about that when I broke down Willis's film when they traded for him. It was kind of like, yeah, this is an upside dart throw who, there's a reason teams love the character. He's got the athleticism, he's got the arm, but it's just, developing all the other stuff operationally and mechanically that needed to happen. And lo and behold, the upside dart throw worked in that regard. Not all of them are going to work. But I mean, worth a swing at the very least. So yeah, just thoughts there on him for sure. Okay. So kind of a little bit wrapping up. That's really all I have, but I appreciate all the comments tonight. I know it was kind of rambly at the beginning, maybe a little bit harder just kind of getting questions while we were doing the preview and all that. But I appreciate y'all sticking around. If you're new, and I know there's maybe a couple of those who are, at least who dropped comments tonight, there are a couple of those who are new. If you're new and you want to, hit that sub button and you haven't, definitely do that if you can. As I mentioned, it was a little bit of a kind of a hectic couple weeks, just in terms of like weekend travel and all that stuff. So it was kind of harder to get to videos. But I am going to have stuff, especially with the Packers bye week coming up, right? There's going to be a lot of evaluation and film look-ins at all that. So make sure you got maybe the notification bell on, or you're just checking in every day, because it really isn't a consistent schedule. It's more about when I can get it done. Fred, appreciate that, man. Appreciate the super chat little drop there. That also helps a ton. And again, you don't have to. Never have to do it. Obviously, the video clicking and watching is always good as well, but these are much appreciated. So, Fred McFarley, thank you so much. Appreciate all the questions and appreciate the interaction that you brought to the stream tonight. So that was awesome. So yeah, that's another option. But if you want to just hit the thumbs up, you can do that as well. On the way out of here, again, helpful. I'm going to drop, as I said, the Substack link, the Patreon link. Those are going to start getting more stuff starting tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. And as I said, there's a lot of stuff we do here, right? I know mostly Packers fans here, right, in this stream. So I know not all of you guys are going to be tuned into every video because not always Packers here. A lot of rookie look-ins for sure in terms of the film. There's going to be a big one that's neither rookie nor Packers, which is, hopefully something that y'all would love to click on, but it might be kind of the most work I've put into one in terms of video next Thursday or Friday. So, if you want to click on that, that would be helpful too. But yeah, there's a lot going on because I'm doing a lot of things and, trying to maybe hit some areas that haven't had the biggest coverage in terms of like young player stuff and draft, and analyzing a lot of things. So, yeah, if you want to check out the Substack and stuff, honestly, I think both links, again, not to keep rambling on this, but just because, both links should be on the info page, right? Kind of that little about at the top of the channel page where you click on more. Yeah, the links are there. So if you want to check there, that also works, but I will drop those links down in the description if you want to take a look at those. Or bookmark them, or just hit the follow on either. Patreon doesn't cost anything right now, just letting you know in that regard as well. So don't feel like that's going to be anything where you're like, oh, I have to pay for this. Not yet. So that those links are something you can click on. But as I said, again, going to go down the list really quick here tonight. Packers Kingdom, Prince Capsaicin, Chris N, AFAM, Adam Huddle, of course, Fred McFarley, who dropped the super chat, which is much, much appreciated. Antonio, Holmes MD, obviously I mentioned Adam, Fred, and Prince already. Taylor Bell, who I believe is news. Appreciate you dropping in to talk some ball as well. So it was a lot of fun tonight. And we're gonna be back weekly on this, right? This weekly Cheddar's not going anywhere. This will be again a spot for the draft as well as the Packers. So going to do a lot of that, but I want to make sure that there's at least a little bit of something on schedule, but also have time for all of this. So if I don't get to a comment, let me know on that regard, but I try to get to every single one. So we'll hit a few of these on the way out here. Adam says Green Bay still needs more penetration players on defense, not a Slayton type. I will say there's a pod podcast coming out on Substack tomorrow. So if you want to go over to the Substack, the quickslant.substack.com. It's also, I said already, in the channel, in the about portion, right, in that more at the top. Going to talk about Derek Harmon from Oregon, defensive tackle, who's had a really, really good year. As a player, you guys should be, I think, tuning into watching Oregon play if you haven't yet. If you have, you probably already know. But he's definitely somebody who you should be keeping an eye on for Green Bay going forward. So, yeah, I do think defensive line is going to be something we're going to be talking about a lot in the offseason for sure. So, especially if they're, all the Preston stuff does all that stuff, who knows. But, yeah, thank you, Prince. Appreciate that. Enjoy the game, everybody. If you want, really quick, drop your prediction on what you think, how you think the game is going to go on Sunday. It'll be always fun to revisit all those predictions come season's end. And the week after if we get to it. So Adam Huddle saying Jamin Davis is more hot, nasty speed. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is right now. Flying around, making plays, but between the tackles, trying to process quickly, in a lot of regards has not been his strong suit, that's for sure. Taylor Bell says we need to push on the edge. No more Slayton. Yeah. So there you go. Thank you guys again, all of you, so much for commenting, for throwing the thumbs up if you did, for anyone new who subscribed, and of course, one more shout out to Fred McFarley for dropping a $2 donation. Much appreciated. So yeah, again, there's 3 spots where you need to be looking for content going forward, and hope to see you guys there as well, commenting, and all that stuff in every one of those places. So thank you guys so much. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Friday night, the rest of it at least, and go Pack Go on Sunday. Let's get a W, and what should be a heavyweight fight. But the Packers can definitely do it. I'm gonna take. I will take Detroit just because I think Green Bay's a little undermanned. I'll take Detroit 28-23. Let's go with that. That'll be my prediction on the way out. But thank you guys so much, and go Pack Go. See you.